One of my first paid gigs, this is true, was at a prison. Yeah, I performed in front of 200 inmates, and there is nothing that makes you feel worse as a comedian than to be performing and watching a couple of inmates walk out. Because you know, they're just going back to their cell. That's it. That's it. There's not another room with midnight bowling. Those inmates were watching me on stage and they're like, you know what? I'd rather be alone with a murderer right now. I would get stabbed so quickly in prison because I have a terrible snoring problem. It's bad. It is. So I went to the doctor and it turns out I have sleep apnea, which if you don't know what that is, that's a medical condition where you're so out of shape that sleep is just a little too much exercise for you. I'm falling apart. My doctor told me I had fatty liver disease this year. You know how upsetting it is to have the word fatty in the name of your disease? You know how hurtful that is? I had no idea. Apparently once you get to your 30s, your diseases sound a lot like your doctors making fun of you. I'm afraid to go back. I'm gonna find out I have Jewy arthritis, man tit diabetes. So I quit drinking, I went to AA. I learned a lot in AA. I don't know if you all know this, I learned that alcohol and weed, while seeming harmless, are actually a gateway to born-again Christianity. Did you all know that? Did you all know that? I went to Narcotics Anonymous a couple years earlier for an Adderall addiction, and boy was I out of place. It was very embarrassing. Everyone else in there was like, I OD'd on heroin 12 times, I lost custody of my kids. I'm like, you think that's bad? I once wrote a screenplay that I thought was great. Turned out to just be okay. Oh, you blew a guy for coke? You know what really blew? The third act of my screenplay. It was all over the place. Now I'm sober. I don't know how to hook up. Though to be fair, I never did know. I lost my virginity at 21, which is embarrassing. Anyone else 21? Anyone? All right, one guy. The rest of you lost it later. I get it. We were pretty early. It's embarrassing, 21. It is. This is how embarrassing it is. I'm lying. I was 24. That's how embarrassing. Being a virgin now, people are very embarrassed, but they used to be proud of it. It's really made a switch. It has. Through history. Jesus' mother was so proud about being a virgin, she had it in her name. That's how she introduced herself. She was like, hi, I'm the Virgin Mary. And you just be like, I'm bisexual Phil. What are we doing? We're revealing way too much right away. I love doing comedy. When I first started, I was a substitute teacher. And in the training to be a sub, this is true, they said, don't have sex with any of the kids. They said that. They said that. And the guy next to me wrote that down. Took out a pen. I was like, what are you doing, buddy? You know that's a law, right? That's not just school policy. You should not be learning anything right now. You should already be knowing that shit, and you should definitely not be writing it down like you might forget again. That's what you should definitely not be doing. Speaking of perverts, what a year we had, huh? Yeah, one creep after another. Boy, do we owe Pee Wee Herman a big apology, don't we? Some of you might not remember, but 25 years ago, his entire career got destroyed because he got caught pleasuring himself in a porno theater. We should go back in time and give him a medal for doing it correctly. He didn't make anyone watch. He did it in the back of the theater, like a gentleman. Also, someone had to tell on him, which I find hilarious. Think about that. Someone had to literally go up to the box office and be like, excuse me. Excuse me. Me and my family are trying to watch this porn in the other room. There's this weirdo. People get offended by everything. My favorite thing from last year, people tried to boycott the Beauty and the Beast remake. because apparently there was a scene that suggested Gaston's sidekick LeFou is gay. And people tried to boycott the movie. And I saw the movie. It is blown so out of proportion. All it is at the end of the movie, there's a dance, and there's just a quick shot of LeFou banging a guy. That's it. It's 45 minutes long. I get why homophobes don't like that movie. I get it. Because what do homophobes always say? Well, if you let gay people get married, what's next? Someone marrying an animal? And that's literally the plot of Beauty and the Beast. So I get it. People are morons. I was telling an Uber driver about transgenders in the military. At one point he said, I would never want to be in a foxhole with a transgender person. I was like, dude, if you're in a foxhole, you have way bigger things to worry about. Like, why are you fighting in early 1900s trench warfare? I haven't been a foxhole since 1942. That's what you should be concerned about, that you're a freaking time traveler. Hey man, call me old-fashioned, but I don't need no transgender fella hovering around while I'm pouring gunpowder into my musket. While on my cavalry horse, I don't need it. Call me traditional, but I don't need no non-binary pansexual helping me push a battering ram into the door of the castle we're storming. Some of you are laughing and some of you are just staring at me, and I just want to say, I didn't spend 25 minutes on Wikipedia today. People will stare at me. I did a lot of homework for that joke. I like the excuses for prejudice. One time my grandpa said something racist, and my mom tried to defend it. She's like, well, he's from a different time. He's from a different time. I'm like, yeah, but the only problem with that is he's not. He's from right now. He was from a different time, and then time moved forward. And he's still in time. That's how time works. Grown old people only have trouble adjusting to prejudice. They don't have trouble adjusting to other changes, and it's hypocritical. Like an old person will be like, I don't think black and white people should date because that's not how I was raised. And that's fine, you can say that, but then I don't ever see you riding an escalator. Because you weren't raised with that shit either. Every time you see an escalator, you should be like, who put this roller coaster in the lawn? I was talking to my buddy the other day, and at one point, this is an actual quote he said. At one point he said, dude, I'm 38, but I'm still really immature. Like, I have a couple dead mice in my room right now. That's not immature. That's fucking disgusting. He's completely confused those two words. That's like if the cop that opened Jeffrey Dahmer's freezer and saw all those heads went, ooh, he's got a lot of growing up to do. What is that, a land made out of skin? What is he, in middle school? Come on! Serial killers fascinating. I don't like the made-up ones. Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal the Cannibal. Really? Really? So you're telling me there's this cannibal who just happens to have the only first name in the history of names to rhyme with cannibal. And no one in the movie's like, huh, what are the odds? What? In this cell, we have Hannibal Lecter, he's a cannibal. And in this cell, we have Giles Japis. You'll never guess what he's in for. In conclusion, we live in a very divided country right now, and sometimes you'll read articles that make you furious. I read an article recently, it might divide the room a little. The article is a true story by Karen Balliard of the Washington Post. A true story about an octopus named Inky that crawled out of a tank in a New Zealand aquarium, went through the window, and back into the ocean. And the line in the article that made me so mad, Karen Balliard wrote, this cephalopod version of Shawshank Redemption. She compared it to Shawshank Redemption, even though it is the exact freaking ending of Finding Nemo. It's the exact ending. There's no connection to Shawshank, none. Obviously you're not as mad as me, but look, this is unacceptable. So I wrote her an email. I got a lot of time on my hands. Dear Karen, never in my life have I been more outraged by a missed opportunity to reference Finding Nemo. How can you make such a glaring error? The only excuse I can come up with is that you happen to suffer from the same form of dementia that Dory suffers from. Let me guess, you don't even get that reference. In conclusion, aquariums are nothing like prisons. For example, fish don't walk out when you're performing stand-up at a goddamn aquarium. So she didn't write back. But 2 months later, she came out with another article that I could not help but perceive a very secret and coy F you to me. And this was a literal line in that article. Convicted killer Matt Harris recently escaped from a prison in Tennessee by using power tools to dig a hole through his cell. A hole he covered up each morning behind a poster of Rita Hayworth. This human version of Finding Nemo. Thank you, I'm not a